So, in today's episode, we discuss employee giving, why it matters, how to get people involved, how to get your leadership involved, and more. Let's make a social impact. Hi, everyone. I'm Carl. Welcome to the Social Impact Show, a channel where you get the latest strategies and tips to help you grow and develop your CSR and goodness programs. Now, remember, if this is your first time on this channel and you want to get the latest strategies from the experts, hit the subscription button below, hit the little notification bell so you don't miss anything. So today I'm joined by Danielle Valley-Gilchrist, Goodness Catalyst with Benevity, and we're going to talk about employee giving. So Danielle, first of all, what is employee giving? And then why does it matter?
Thanks, Carl. Thanks for having me. So today we're talking about employee giving, which is a great way to be able to engage your employees and catalyze impact. On a very high level, employee giving is the ways that I, as an employee, can use my altruistic efforts and then be supported by my company to be able to expand that even more. So for example, I can give $1 to the nonprofit down the street. And then if my company matches that, my dollar goes even further and that nonprofit is able to further their impact.
And so why does this matter? So wouldn't it be the same as if, I'm giving a charitable donation to an organization? Why does it matter from a organization perspective?
Yeah, it's a great way to really show your culture and that you care about your employees by empowering them to give in their communities and to even take your dollars to make the impact even further. On an internal company level, it really matters because it can impact employee retention, feeling a sense of belonging, and even being able to recruit higher quality candidates. And then on the external, it is a great way to have a halo effect of your community knowing that you're really doing the right thing for them and that the cause is able to advance more impact because of your efforts.
Got it. Now, let's say there's a couple people in the organization that that want to do this a lot more, and maybe get more people involved. How do they, or how does that one person get going, or get some sort of program started in an organization?
So as you're getting a program started, the first thing is to make the business case of why it matters to the company, of the issues that I was just talking about. And then once you have the approval, to set some goals and get people really engaged. I'm personally a really competitive person, and so I go all the way to the executives and really up the ante and say we're going to compete by department to see what department has the most impact in the community this year.
I've seen challenges in the past with organizations I've worked with where X company has donated X amount, so we want to try to beat it. I've always been skeptical of that because I'm not sure how people react to does it really matter how much this organization gave versus us? Because is it really more about the cause rather than the actual, well, we just gave this much more, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you are communicating with employees, the bigger thing is remembering the what's in it for me as an employee. Because if I've even personally made the mistake of having my communications be very specific about the campaign and what the company goals are, but the employee wants to know why it matters to them. And so being able to take that step back, either by telling a story or asking that employee what they care about, you're really able to inspire them and get them to actually be your advocate on building out your program.
So how do you go about, let's say you got your program started but there's only maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 people, regularly participating. How do you get more people involved? How do you get them passionate or engaged with that?
So I would really start by building a relationship with those 5 people that are already involved and kind of nominating them to be your local champions. Because the biggest thing is employees like to be asked by their peers. And it goes a lot further if I tell my personal story of why I care about a nonprofit than just it being something that that everyone is doing just because somebody asked. So I would start by having those local champions, having something that's really relevant to your company culture, and then more creatively, there are ways that you can seed employee accounts, utilize dollars for doers, other ways that you can be able to encourage even more impact off of that.
And how do you find these local champions, right? Like obviously some people will be a parent, but I've seen some people where they're very quiet, like they're not very quiet, but more of like you don't know about them until you actually reach out, and then once they, really get involved, they get really involved and they become the catalyst. How do you go about finding those people in maybe a bigger organization?
So in a bigger, I absolutely agree with you. Sometimes they're the sleepers that are just waiting to be asked. And then once they're asked, it's like you really open them up. In a bigger organization, when you might not have those relationships, I would I would connect with the leadership to be able to see if they have any recommendations. And one of our clients actually even took it further and did an international roadshow. And Tiana visited each of her office locations and was able to meet with the employees there and have a conversation about social impact. And off of those conversations, she was able to say, this person seems really, really passionate. I'm going to continue conversations with them.
And if you're getting value from this video, we'd really appreciate you hitting that like button. And the question of the day for you is, have you started an employee giving program in your organization? And how did you start? What were some of the challenges and opportunities? Let us know in the comment section below. So Danielle, we talked about how to get employees involved, but I'm really curious, how do you get, leadership and executives involved? Because sometimes, while employees are involved, I see, the director levels and higher VPs may not be the most, they don't necessarily get involved. Like, how do you get them, passionate or at least, being there or present for some of the events that you're putting on?
Yeah, and it really does matter because employees see through it of if they're taking their day to go to a food bank and they're noticing that none of that their director just like happened to skip it that day, they're going to see that and it's going to stick. So the biggest thing is connecting with leadership and having conversations with why it matters. Sometimes even finding out what they're personally passionate about. And so if there's somebody that really loves puppies and it's authentic to your company culture, then maybe have the volunteer event at an animal shelter so that it's something that that leader really cares about. But the big things for me are communicate with them early and often, communicate why it matters. And again, Danielle is competitive, make it a competition.
Maybe that leads me to my next question too. How do you go about creating these type of programs with a smaller budget, right? Like it's one thing if everybody, like you will have an established program and then you can go out and do these events and so on. What if you're just starting and you may have like minimal budget or like no budget at all? How do you get started like that?
Yeah, I work with a lot of the smaller companies every day, and I have this conversation because I get it. When you have a smaller company, smaller budget, you have to prove the use case in order to move forward. It's hard because you can't just give everyone thousands of dollars. Some tactics that we have seen really work are to have seeding campaigns that are small. So for example, even if you give each employee $5, $10 to show them that you care, and to do a raffle. So for example, when Splunk launched their program a few years ago, they gave every employee $10, and then one employee got $10,000. And it was like a raffle competition to find out which employee was going to get the money. And by doing that, everyone logged into their site. And then once they were in, they were giving more money, they were getting more engaged. And within the first week, 62% of their employees donated and supported 1,300 causes.
Wow.
The other great thing is, because of the way a employee giving platform is built out, we can set the budgets both for individuals and the whole company, so that you don't have to be like penny pinching every day.
That's really interesting with Splunk. Like when you're talking about 10,000, is that 10,000, a donation, or 10,000 someone's going to win $10,000?
It's a $10,000 donation that was in their employee giving account. And there's a great story on our website of the nonprofit that employee selected, and how it really got the entire company more excited.
And I'll leave a link to that in the description below. So I know the last question I want to ask, and we're all affected by the pandemic and COVID and lockdowns and so on. So how have you seen employee giving, I guess, evolve before, maybe during, and what do you maybe foresee in the future of how employee giving programs work? Or what will it just go back to normal?
Yeah, it's quite been the year, Carl. So the first thing that I noticed 2020 was, at first, a lot of us were wondering if our corporate responsibility budgets were going to get cut, were going to continue. And then once we felt solid about our existence during COVID, then we were able to really catalyze all of the employee passion. So we at Benevity saw a big spike in donating last year, both to hunger nonprofits and to Black Lives Matter movement nonprofits. We were able to really make a bigger impact than I've seen in the past. And the other part of that is, because of social distancing, not much in-person volunteering was happening. So a lot of companies were adapting their campaigns to be more virtual volunteering and donating specific. Longer term, I would love to see companies to continue to catalyze this impact and put big dollars behind this impact. But I'm also hopeful that, fingers crossed, we'll be able to eventually volunteer in person again and get our hands dirty at it.
I do think that interaction, not through Zoom or not through whatever channels that we go through, but more so that personal connection, being at the same place, and especially when you're volunteering, I think there is something special about that, and I definitely hope that we can definitely get there. Did you see, and maybe I think you touched on this just a little bit, did you see a higher level of employee engagement into employee giving programs, workplace giving programs during the pandemic, or during, I guess, the lockdowns, starting in March last year?
Oh yeah, Carl. You're right. I kind of spaced by that. We absolutely saw a big spike in donations in 2020. One statistic that comes to mind is, during one week during the month of June, our number of daily users went from less to 100 to in the thousands. And that was just one day of really employees getting engaged. And throughout the rest of the year, those who had the ability to donate really stepped up this year.
Do you have anything else to add in terms of employee giving?
No, if you please add more in the comments. We would love to continue the conversation about this topic. We love employee giving here at Benevity and are excited to be able to support you.
And remember, if you want to learn more about employee and workplace giving, check out this playlist here, as well as this playlist, to learn more about how to develop and grow your CSR programs. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in our next episode.